Yo, what's good, Chris? How we doing, Jeremy? All right, we gotta make a big data sheet. We gotta make ourselves a big old data sheet. Just actually, you know what we need to do first is we need to check to see if somebody already has done this, so I don't have to. Most efficient. Most efficient Paragon board per glyph. Diablo 4.
In this video,
That was a year ago. Woody is from a year ago when the game came out. The next Paragon board early in Diablo 4. That was me a year ago. Over a year ago. Holy. All right, so what we don't have is the thing I want to make today. Ultimate Paragon board helper. Can I show the site? This is maxroll.gg, the website that I write for. What's good, Ducky? What up, Adrian? How have things been? Glad to see you streaming. What time do you think you'll start your stream on the 18th for the Spiritborn class? I can't reveal anything about how that stream will go until we are much closer to the date. The answer should be directly following the live stream of the on the official Diablo Twitch and YouTube channels. Can ChatGPT solve Paragon boards? No, because there isn't a solved Paragon board. ChatGPT couldn't come up with something called a solved Paragon board because there's no such thing as a perfect Paragon board until you put in the exact circumstances of the build you're currently playing. How are we doing, Recluse? Like, you couldn't even put in, here are my current stats, solve Paragon board for me. Because there's too many different things to be taken into account for building a Paragon board specifically for you. Yeah, what up, Atoka? How you doing? Hey, thank you very much, Adrian. I'm really hoping that they give us a lot of time to sit down with the class, even potentially before the stream. That would be pretty cool. But we will see. I will do my best to get us as much info as I possibly can, while hopefully being entertaining. Do you ever look at something and just realize that it's dirty and that's now all you can think about? No, just me? Right. So, here's what we need to do. For this to be all-encompassing, we need to basically, here's what I think we need to do. I need to make a video detailing the basic concepts about how Paragon works. Glyphs, glyph ranks, extending their diameter, yeah, or extending their radius. Yes, that's something we get asked about a lot on Maxroll. The fact that Paragon boards can rotate. Something we get asked about a lot on Maxroll. You'd be surprised the number of bug reports that come in that say, hey, the Paragon board is impossible because it's the wrong shape. Or, hey, that glyph is impossible because it doesn't meet the minimum requirements. And what I basically want to do is make a which board is the most efficient for each glyph, depending on what you're attempting to accomplish. And my kind of approach to building Paragon boards as well. Because I have a couple hard and fast rules. just gonna start listing off some rules. Always reach another priority within 5 Paragon points. Leave suboptimal boards as dead ends. Maximize 1 board at most. Wow. Have twice through instead of through the middle when possible. Always take maximum life when possible. Calculate, recalculate, and calculate again. For the Necromancer. Starter board. Well, hold on. Starter. So this idea is per class. I want to show you the minimum. So this is minimum points needed to leave the board. And I'll remove lines where I don't need them anymore. Then I'll make a minimum points required. It's required to activate a glyph. Starter here will have a star, because just like keep it, just because you can't not leave the starter board. What else do I need to cover? I think how to read Maxroll Guides article at some point. I did make a how to read Maxroll Guides video a little while ago, Itaka. It was slightly before we changed the formatting of our guides. But I don't necessarily think it would be worth your time and energy, because I honestly don't think anybody will read it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do this thing, but I think in my experience on the website, people only read the bare minimum of what they need to retrieve the information they think that they need. Yo, thank you very much, Dean. What's with Echo? Echo Hack? You can ask Echo. They're back to social media. This is going to be the Necromancer tab. This won't be the starter tab. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Oh, and thank you for the likes on the YouTube stream, by the way. If you could get those in early, it would mean the world to me. If you wouldn't mind doing that. Because you need to know what the minimum to leave a board is. I guess we should technically do this, which is future-proof this. Minimum points needed to max a glyph. Because we might go back to a world where we want to max glyphs as well. How we doing, Daddy? Yeah, the minimum number of points required to leave a Paragon board, at least on the Necromancer, I haven't looked at like other classes, is 5 points. And because of that, you should always seek to put in a glyph, which will allow you to do a 5-point exit for efficiency's sake. If what you're looking to do is pass through and activate the most glyphs, which is sometimes the primary objective, but also there will be an objective of activating a legendary node, which then changes the minimum requirements from like 10 to 15 points. And then when you're calculating the efficiency of points, what you should do is calculate your main stat bonus plus the new multiplier bonus divided by points to determine value per point, which is something that I created for the Bone Spear build guide a long time ago. I don't even know if I could find this. Hold on. I just write Paragon. Is it Bone Spear? What is this? Oh, this was trying to determine the relationship between serration, splintering, and grasping veins for determining maximum damage output because of the variable of shard damage on splintering aspect. So there was a while where you would actually put splintering on your amulet or even on your two-hander. But that was also back when splintering had a bug with it where it got more than a 2x bonus. Okay. Starter will always have a star next to it. Starter is unique. I guess I have to have a note over here. Okay, so first, let's look at the starter board with an example. So we will never have strength. Because we do not have strength glyphs. But when we look at the starter board, and we just go through the options. So we start next with dexterity. So this is the minimum is it? $15.25. Actually, it can go even. Right? So this is actually the minimum requirement. 22 points. First starter. To activate a dex glyph. Right? There's no other way to accomplish this. Correct. $22 points for a dex glyph. Should probably make these bigger. $22 points required to leave this board efficiently with the dex glyph. Minimum points needed to activate a glyph on dex would be the same. Although starter board this is kind of the same. For starter, it's the same. Yes. Okay. Minimum points needed to max a glyph would be this one. That would be 23. What? Okay. 23 points to max a glyph. For dexterity, there's no more points I could get. Yes. Okay, great. Great, 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 great. So now we talk about an intelligence glyph. Minimum needed to leave. This is 25, so I actually think it's this way. What? Stop. This would be 30, 40. Okay, is there a cheaper way out of here? I lose 1 int here. I do not gain anything. Maxing might be a different story. I don't think so. So 23 points on an int glyph. Now for maxing gets a little hard. Redoing Paragon is the number one thing that keeps you from changing builds. I think that's definitely kind of not a problem, but like one of the hurdles for a lot of people. I think we'd share that sentiment. Doing this for each board for each class is going to be heinous. It's going to be heinous. Heinous, truly heinous. Are most boards just activate all rare nodes? No, not at all. At least for the Necromancer, the vast majority of boards are ignore all rare nodes in their entirety, other than maximum life, or damage reduction, or a unique stat. So to give you an idea, this is my Paragon board for Sever. Like here I'm taking 2 because this is maximum life and this is max essence, which are unique stats you can't get normally other places. I don't take any of the rare nodes even around this glyph. This one, I'm only taking these rare nodes. Like other than this one's an extra point, but it's a point that gets you 10 intelligence and 35 shadow damage. But this is just the most efficient way to path to the dexterity. Here, this is one of the most efficient ways to path to the dexterity requirements, and I need res. This is just for maximum life. This is just because it's the most efficient way to get intelligence. I don't take any of the rare nodes here, and this one has maximum life on it. I think that a lot of people have simplified Paragon boards in a way that is not actually efficient for their build. This is like a really, really good example of a board that, like, this node is because it gives me intelligence. This node is because it gives me intelligence. And it's actually just for the glyph. This is just for maximum life. This is because you need to get to the armor requirement on the build. But if I had the armor, like if you could have like perfect armor, you wouldn't need these points at all. So you'd actually save a point by just picking up these 2 intelligence. Again, not going for the other rare node, not picking up any of these rare nodes. This might be different on other classes. But basically nowadays, if you don't have at least 6 boards and typically 7 boards, you're probably doing something very wrong on your character. Chirago, thank you very much for the follow. Let's go see other classes though. They might have some interesting stuff. Oh, not specialized. Want endgame. Oda. Paragon. Yeah, see, this one's their maximum fury node. This is DR. They get DR while healthy? Insane. DR from vulnerable? Y'all just get DR nodes? Wait, you have 2 maximum fury nodes? You just get DR nodes? Man, fuck all of you. I never want to hear anybody ever complain about the Necromancer ever again. But again, so this is like a seven board setup. Minimum investments on glyphs, picking up unique. Well, at least this one's just an armor node, I guess. But just picking up unique nodes. Probably don't need all this Furion kill though. Probably save these 2 points. Well, I don't know. I don't know how this build is played. This is maximum life and maximum resource. Are you kidding me? Mine is damage while fortified. Additive. Insane. But yeah. Will a legendary helm be before the Bloodwave build versus Shaco because of Desecrated Ground temper? Shaco is not best in slot on Shadow Bloodwave, but that's... Yeah, what up, Trev? Thank you for the 46 months. I appreciate you. Shaco is not the best in slot on a Shadow Bloodwave build. If you're going with the old versions, because we wanted to maximize intelligence to max out the Wither legendary node. We only need to reach 1200 intelligence cap now, though. But that still allows you to add... But you can't, like... There's no Desecrated Ground damage temper for a helmet. Helmets can't get damage nodes, can't get damage tempers on them. What's the project plan today? How-to guide on Paragon. Yes, exactly. Where I'm gonna make an everything tool. But Barbarians getting multiple damage reduction nodes from enemies you're doing damage to is actually insane. The Necromancer gets 1 damage reduction node. There is 1 node that grants damage reduction, other than Scent of Death. You have damage reduction when you have corpses near you. If you don't, you don't. But there is 1 character damage reduction node in the entirety of the Necromancer. And it is on the Wither board, and it's if you've applied shadow damage over time to them. Like, it's insane. Thank you so much, Trev. 46 months. What up, Grim? This. I read 4 different damage reduction nodes, and then the Sorceress has damage reduction everything too. It's wild. Okay. Back to what we were doing. How do I maximize intelligence in minimum points? if there's a better node for the same amount of points, take it. I know it seems like a weird rule, but it's something like right here, right? Well, I can get to the exact same place with this node over this node, strictly better. So I should use it. It's kind of the idea there. Okay, so I think that this is the answer. 32. It would take you 32 points in the starter board. Very specifically because you always have to path out of the starter board. Okay. Oh, you know what I should do? I should include how much you get. For dexterity. Or 39. Okay, yeah, we should include how much you get. We should definitely include how much you get. And we gotta do willpower. $22. And willpower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5, and in most circumstances, you would assume you would want intelligence. Not that that super matters here. Is this accurate? Yeah, because I need to go over 2 to get... I don't have to go over 2, I have to go over 1. No, because I would have to build down. Okay, yeah, so you would always build up here. Hmm. Choosing which glyphs you want? Yeah, so generally speaking, choosing what glyphs you want to use, which ultimately determines what boards are available to you, and then figuring out the most efficient combination of those boards to get to those points, while accounting for legendary nodes and rare nodes, which are relevant for your build, is, I mean, like, yes, that's like the all-encompassing approach. but there are some circumstances where, like, let's use Abyssal as a really good example here. Abyssal says that it will empower my non-physical damage and damage reduction modifiers. This only currently works on the Necromancer in the Wither board for a bonus. But that being said, the Wither board actually isn't the most efficient dexterity board that exists for the Necromancer. It's actually 1 point inefficient. Well, depending on what you're going to do, but if you're also trying to leave the board, it ends up being 1 or 2 points inefficient. So you might be losing out on the additive of the Wither board to regain 2 Paragon points, which might be the difference of being able to reach a maximum life node or something like that. So it's not as simple as put the glyph where it gets the most benefit always. It goes even deeper than that. But that is a good general rule of thumb for sure. 27 points. 27 for 39. So that's the starter board. If you want to use a dex or a willpower, you can leave the starter board in 22 points. If you want to use an intelligence, you can leave the starter board in 23 points. These, oddly enough, are the same amount of points required to activate a minimum glyph because you always have to path out of the starter board. This will be different for other boards. And for these boards, if you wanted to max out a dex glyph on this board, it would be significantly more efficient than trying to max out a willpower glyph, because it's 4 points or the same bonus. Whereas the intelligence glyph is 32 points for 70, which may not be the most valuable point to bonus that you could possibly get. Any tips on hierarchy of needs for selecting nodes to path through? The hierarchy of needs is your build. That's like asking. So the answer is yes. You determine the hierarchy of needs of your build, and then you accomplish those things in Paragon in the most efficient way possible. But in Paragon, what Paragon can accomplish for you on the Necromancer, what the Paragon system can accomplish for you is increase your maximum resistance, increase your maximum essence, grant you additive damage, grant you attack speed, grant you very specific damage reduction, and grant you multipliers, as well as grant you stats, right? Stats are sometimes important to what your build is attempting to accomplish. Things that become deprioritized in the Paragon system is additive damage, because our gear has so much additive damage on it now that even though there are a lot of opportunities to gain a lot of additive damage in the Paragon board, there are less opportunities to gain maximum life, right? Because many gear pieces, which can have maximum life on it, need to have things like attack speed, critical strike chance, lucky hit chance, resource cost reduction, etc. So something like the rings can have maximum life on it, but ultimately you typically don't want to put maximum life on your rings. So in that way, maximum life is more of a premium on the Necromancer. And getting that in your Paragon system is typically very important for creating a valuable character. Now, let's say you're playing a build that is using a unique helmet, chest, and pants. You will typically not be able to get armor on that same build without sacrificing it on gear pieces that have more value, so something like an amulet. So in that way, armor becomes a very high priority for you in your Paragon board, which you can often take armor nodes over additive damage nodes. You know, a great example is right here. You can take armor or you can take additive damage. You can take both, but pathing through here will gain you 300 flat armor, with a little bit more depending on what glyph you put in here. So I should also put that like rare node booster and magic node booster is typically good in the starter board. Excuse me. I guess I could try to do this. Rating for rare / magic node boosting glyph. 1 out of 10. This is about a 7. Pretty good. Boosting armor can be valuable. It's not really that valuable anymore though, is it? You know what we can do? Early game. Late game. Let's just call this bad gear. Good gear. You think additive damage is still worth pathing to? I don't. I do not path to additive damage unless there's nothing else worth my time to go to. But that also depends on the build, right? So Bone Spirit, the Bone Spirit Necromancer gets, like before Masterworking, Bone Spirit Necromancer gets what? Like 150, 150, 150, 450, 600, 800. Uh, 900. About 1,000 additive damage on its gear alone, just from tempers, and then damage rolls on your weapon and potentially on your rings or on your glove. And that's before Masterworking. After Masterworking, you get close to 2,000 additive damage. That's a big number. But if you have a build that says gain a multiplier equal to your crit additive, gain a multiplier equal to your vulnerable additive, which is something the Necromancer doesn't get. So I didn't even really know it was a thing that other classes got, which is fucking insane. So that changes your personal equation. And then the question is always, if I have nowhere else to path to, what is worth my time getting? And getting through to an additive source, which can also increase a relevant stat, then becomes a priority. So the Necromancer gains core stat from intelligence, or main stat intelligence. So if I have a glyph like Control, which says get me 9 additive damage per 5 intelligence, and I'm getting 5 intelligence, that's going to outperform something like, you know, gain 10 vulnerable damage per 5 dex or something. All of the equations require you to break down literally every stat that you have. Nobody's going to do that other than, you know, lunatics like me. Did I get straight A's in math? I was generally good at coming to understand whatever form of mathematics I was learning. My major issue was if the math didn't click in my head, there was kind of nothing I could do to make it click in my head. I had a real hard time understanding how we were calculating like the area under a curve. I just like was bad at that. I actually, hold on real quick. Hold on. I need to make sure not to dox myself, but I want to show something. Oh, not this one. Hold on. You know, all throughout elementary school, I was basically like an AB student. Or back when I was like a little kid, it was like S and A. Or S and E. I don't know, exceeds expectations or satisfies something. I forget what it was. But I got a report card. It was very, very funny. I got a report card, and back in American schools, so you would get told like how they're doing in the actual thing. And then they would also get, so like how they're doing, like, did they get an A or a B or whatever? And then they also kind of like commented on your temperament as a kid, which I always found very interesting. I get it, but like, it's kind of interesting. I think it makes sense. What I think it ultimately does is ostracize children who may have challenges in social situations. But since it's arbitrary and it's per the personality of the teacher, it's like bad. Just like, I think it's just bad. So, it's like all A's across the board. A's. This is like third or fourth grade. It's like A's, social studies A's, history A's, English A's, mathematics A's, science A's, conduct, math teacher, absolute pleasure to have in class, science teacher, absolute pleasure to have in class, English, absolute pleasure to have in class, social studies, history, absolute pleasure to have in class, absolute pleasure to have in class, music, challenging to have in class. There was this teacher who took our music class very, very seriously, which is perfectly fine. All teachers should be taken seriously. The issue being that like our school didn't take music very seriously. So it was weird when a teacher was taking something very seriously, but like our academic structure didn't. And I didn't appreciate as a kid how rough she was emotionally. Anyway, I just found it very funny that every teacher is like, Mac is great, Mac is great, Mac is great, Mac is great, Mac is great. This music teacher, Mac is challenging. And I'm like, yeah, that's generally the relationship I had with some teachers. They kind of either thought I was brilliant and mostly just left me alone, or would butt heads against me, because I also had parents who like very much taught me to like question authority and question why something is occurring and not just accept it just is because it is. But not as like an asshole. It's like, be curious in the why of something. And if it doesn't make sense to you, question why it doesn't make sense to you. Is like conversations I would have with my parents often. And not every teacher necessarily appreciated that. And this music teacher was one of them. So we had some issues. Does it also mean that you generally don't spend... I basically will never max out a glyph. And again, I think you're asking very specifically from the perspective of a barbarian. It's not... in that your additive damage empowers something. The Necromancer has nothing like that at all. There is no, the more crit you have, the more of a multiplier you get from a different thing. So very specifically, again, for other classes that do have those benefits, those things are important. And that's per the multipliers that you get. What's the best way to farm tempers? Bosses. Just killing bosses as fast as you can. It doesn't matter who kills the monster. No, I do not consider minion damage reduction to be a Necromancer damage reduction node. Was I gifted? Yes, I was one of the gifted children. I got to be in advanced placement classes. I got to be in accelerated courses. Mostly I just wanted to read books and be left alone. Oh, technically speaking, all these take one more. But you also have to click the gate out. It's my favorite flavor of crayon. I really didn't like blue or red. I think white was probably my favorite. Yeah. Like when I was in middle school, I had this math teacher and he very much didn't like me and I very much didn't like him. But one of the reasons why he didn't like me is because I didn't really pay attention in the class, because I found out that basically we had a workbook. And that workbook had math that, you know, like problems that had to be solved at the end of each chapter. So as long as I read the book and understood what it said, I didn't need him to like further explain it to me. So what I would do is I would just do the homework and then ignore it. Basically, ignore the class. But what I would do is I would read books. I read a lot of books, mostly because I was trying to escape, right? But I would read tons and tons and tons and tons of books. And he didn't like that I was reading in class because it's disrespectful to him and what he's trying to do. I don't hold it against him. What I do hold against him is how he would go about reprimanding me, like tearing the books out of my hand, which is just acts of violence which are unnecessary, including tearing one of my books because I refused to let it go. And the funny part about that year is that I had my homeroom teacher, my English teacher, loved me. She just left me alone. Basically, she would, while she was teaching, she would come in and check on me. She'd be like, do you know what we're talking about? And I would go, yes. And she'd go, okay. And then on tests, I would show that. And she would just let me read all day. And she loved it. She basically didn't have to look at me. But sometimes teachers were very angry at the concept that you weren't learning in the way that they thought you should be. Which always very confused me as a kid. So glyphs tend to give you an additive damage boost, which is of almost no value in comparison to what your points can accomplish for you in a Paragon board. Increasing my overpower damage by 12% is significantly stronger than increasing my overpower damage by 115. Why is that? Because an overpower build has thousands of additive damage. Thousands. So getting more overpower damage, typically, is not as powerful as using those same points to reach another glyph. Which book was the most surprising the first time that I read it? Memnoch the Devil by Anne Rice. It was probably like the first really... Like, I was a... Also, Shabadoo, thank you very much for the Prime Gaming. I appreciate you. I was very much a... Like, I was a Harry Potter kid, right? So, loved Harry Potter, loved everything about Harry Potter. I read every Harry Potter book 10 plus times. I used to be able to quote like the first like 3 or 4 books by root. And so those were some of the most powerful books that I read at the time, but not really surprising. Rather just enjoyed the story. But Memnoch the Devil by Anne Rice was like the first time I really like read a book and kind of sat down and went, huh, how do I feel now that I've read this book? So now I should probably go in alphabetical order, right? I think that makes the most sense. What do y'all think? Should I go in alphabetical order? So then it's blood begets blood. Okay. So now here, blood begets blood is also a really good example because it kind of highlights some of the challenges of these boards. Okay. Scormus, thank you so much for the Prime. Bloodbath should be first? No. Bloodbath comes after blood alphabetically, right? Blood is before the word bloodbath in the alphabet. Right? I'm not crazy. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. When you have a list of things, a thing that contains more letters comes after the thing with less letters. I'm pretty sure that is a true statement. So let's look at a dex. Wow, this is a bad board for a dex, huh? To hit dex requirement. Alright, so hold on. Before I do this, let's just take a note. Let's minimize. Sorry for the burp. That's gross. So we start with 19 points whenever we're doing our math here. We have spent 19 points. Okay. Is this really... One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9, 10 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think this is the minimum. How does one make a Paragon board? Welcome to it. Gross. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think this is the easiest way to accomplish this. So it's 10. What a bad board for this, huh? But what if we think about it again? And we put an abyssal in here. Oh, sorry, rotate. Ugh. You can actually do it this way. Oh no, you can't. Fuck. This is 28 points. How many was it the other way? 28. Yeah, this is significantly better. This is 26 points. Okay. So 26 points. Minimum points need to leave the board. 26. What? Okay. This is not minimum needed to activate the glyph, though. Minimum needed to activate the glyph. Is this it? Yes. that minimum? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Hold on. I'll delete this. Blood begets blood. What about this? I'm at 19 points. This is 19 versus at 17. Can I get cheaper than that? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I cannot. Okay, so it's 17. 17 points needed to activate a glyph. $17. Okay. And then minimum points needed to max a glyph. Looks like a pretty straight shot from me, right? 1, 2, 3. We get there differently. This is the same amount. This is an unnecessary point. So then to max it is 19 or 20 points. Oh. Let you quickly path on the Power Ground Planner. Holding shift. And it will go from the last, it will try to go from the last place where you've put points. So what I recommend doing is pathing to the glyph first, as opposed to putting something into the glyph and then trying to path to it, because you'll get these weird like cut up paths, because it can't really rationalize what you're trying to do. Okay, 20 points. 20 points for how much? 34. 20 points for 34. And then rare magic node boosting. Pretty good because of overpower, pretty bad for rare. Rare. So I actually have to make more than one of these. Magic boosting. So for rare, starter starts off like pretty okay. Ends up pretty mid. Blood begets blood is always bad. For magic boosting, it's still pretty decent for magic boosting. I would give it kind of the same, I think. And blood begets blood for magic, I would actually call very high. Actually just like a very good magic boosting node. Very specifically for the overpower additive. I guess on good gear, it's less important. Maybe on good gear it comes down to here. It actually... The good bad gear argument is actually just based off of armor and resistances. I guess like it's still one of your best magic boosting nodes on the build. Yes, because there's nothing else you can really magic boost that's relevant other than damage to elites. But that glyph is so good for decks, you typically would never do a magic boost. Well, you could do a magic booster there, it's actually fine. Yeah, okay. Rare node boosting, I always put on life. What life nodes are near a glyph on the Necromancer? None? There's none at all? Right? Not that I know of. Blood, no, none of these do. Cult Leader is DR and damage for minions. Hulking is damage and survivability for the Golem. Flesh Eater is res and damage to elites. Scent of Death is armor and damage to injured. Bone Graft is bone damage and resistances. Blood Begets Blood is healing from blood orbs and damage after picking up a blood orb, or just healing in general. Bloodbath is damage while fortified and healing received. Wither is shadow resistance and shadow damage. What is the most recent minion build right now without Ubers? Well, other than, so Shadow Mages uses Tyraels. And you can use Shaco on Golem build, but most builds aren't really using Ubers, but it would be Shadow Minions focusing on Golem, I guess, has the least number of Ubers you would use. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. What a shitty board. I think Blood Begets Blood is probably one of our worst boards. Like, here's the weird part. So here, you get intelligence and blood orb healing. What do your magic nodes do? Blood orb healing. Here, you get damage after picking up a blood orb. What do your magic nodes do? Overpower damage. But on Bloodbath, which is the overpower board, what do your nodes do? Damage while fortified and healing on your overpower board with your overpower additive damage. But then overpower is also here. But I think this is one of our worst boards by a pretty far margin. Like when you take into account the entire geometry of it. Like we don't care about this anymore. This is very bad. This is fine because it's a max life. It's okay for corner. It's an expensive corner board. Just because pathing to the actual glyph is so inefficient. There's no way to reach the glyph in 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's actually no way to reach, other than for int. There's no way to reach the glyph within 5 points, so it's only for int. And then pathing out of it, you're getting overpower and damage to this. I don't know, man. It's a bad board. There's a rare node on Rogue. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I still think this is our worst board. I think the only board that might be worse... Let's think about it. I think the Cult Leader board is generally very bad. It might be a mix of between. No, because Cult Leader is actually an even more efficient intelligence. Scent is worse? No way. 0%. Scent as a dead end board is phenomenal. Max life with a legendary, you want to take on everything with a very short path to a glyph. Hard disagree. I think Synth is strictly better than this board. Like, what is this legendary node path for such a hyper niche legendary node? Like, this might be worse than Cult Leader trying to get to just the legendary node. You know what? It's not as bad as Cult Leader. But Cult Leader is special because it's a minion board. Because Cult Leader is like 15 points to get to it, I want to say. Yeah, but Scent is even good as a two-way. But okay. So that's Blood Begets Blood for Dex. Also, I like need to eat a snack or something. All right, I need to eat a snack or something really quick. I'll be right back. Sorry. We run out of snow. Right back. Okay. Using the Bone Prison one? Ooh, that's like the OG when the season first started. I would say that's generally not meta, but if you're enjoying it, you're enjoying it. I personally also like the playstyle. But that's like... that's pretty old at this point. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Okay. So now that we've done this, let's do intelligence. First, we need to do minimum points to leave board. It's got to be minimum points. This, right? So that's 16. Oh, this sucks as an int. This isn't even like vaguely. This is 18 points for path in, path out. Cult Leader is like significantly better than this, right? $26 points. Pretty bad. It's only 35. It's interesting, you always have to go to this node. So it's never better. It doesn't matter what side you come in on. Huh. Interessante. Is this minimum? This has to be minimum number of points to activate, right? 17? And to max a glyph. Am I doing this because they changed the boards, or I've just never done it before? I've done various styles of this in the past, but what I get asked a lot is like, how do you do Paragon boards? Just kind of straight up. Hey Mac, how do you do Paragon boards? So we're gonna try to answer that question. You just copy someone else's and lie? Yes, that's the secret. But it's hard for me to say, like, just use these. Like, I'm gonna create rules. Like, just use these rules. But that's doesn't necessarily get people there. And then, like, there are a lot of things that I know intrinsically because I've done it 1,000 times. But I find like new insights pretty often. Like, it wasn't that long ago when I came to appreciate Hulking Monstrosity for an end board intelligence node as much as I do nowadays, because it's just so efficient to hit minimum requirements on an intelligence glyph. And then also, as the game changes, your preconceptions should change too, right? So nowadays, additive damage is so valueless that hold on. Nowadays, it's so valueless that doing your Paragon boards should be different. You know? Yeah, we just got the album art. It's on Reddit right now. Looks very good. Mushamax, thank you very much for the follow. And Scormus, thank you very much for the prime. I'm sorry if I missed that. I appreciate you. Is this the most efficient intelligence route? This feels very inefficient. There's no way to be more efficient than this. I don't think so. Pretty good as an intelligence end board. No, it's not. It's 23. Oh no, this is a max. This is max. This is max. This is max. 23 for 55. Now for willpower. Not bad. First is minimum needed to leave board. That looks like minimum. Right. Is that accurate? I was at 24. Okay, yeah, so it was 24. I was right the first time. Saw your Sever video, kind of excited to try it out and see his vibe. Do you think Sever would work for leveling? Sever works for leveling. I think while leveling, it is very underpowered in comparison to other builds that you could use for leveling. Which is sad because there was a while where I thought, there's a while where I thought that leveling was like phenomenal for, that Sever was phenomenal for leveling. Sorry. One of the benefits that Sever has going for it is that it naturally synergizes with minions very well. But that being said, even just focusing on the minions damage trade out would do better than Sever. So it is not a bad leveling build, but it is not the best. I think that figuring out the pathing of the boards for this season has been the more interesting board math. I think just max out all glyphs that are relevant to you and have a 5 board system was probably the least interesting that the Paragon system had ever been. Figuring out Abattoir of Z or pathing was also very interesting. But figuring out whether or not your build is an 8 glyph board was a very interesting thing. Now, when you look at it, it's just all very similar. Although I do think that I'm bringing like a little bit of innovation, maybe a little bit of a different board building, at least from what I see amongst my contemporaries. Although I'm only speaking about like Western creators. A lot of it ends up being very much the same, but I think there's some variance in how people have continued to evaluate stats, perhaps without reanalyzing their biases. And that's something that I've been experiencing in Paragon building. 25. Sets minimum points to leave a board. Is this minimum to activate? This looks like minimum to activate. Yeah, so this is minimum to activate. So this is 15 points to activate. So that's like a pretty good willpower board. 15 points to activate. Now, the only problem is that like the value that you get out of it is very low. But that's okay. How are we doing, Daedalus? 6 glyph minion necro. The major issue with minion necro and trying to path is that you have to get to the cult leader node, which is a very, very inefficient legendary node to get to for the build. All things considered, it's a very inefficient legendary glyph, so that's why minions tend to get a little bit shafted when it comes to total number of boards that you can activate. It's planning to do this for all classes. The plan is to make this for all classes, yeah. Just gonna take a while. But yes, I only personally play the Necromancer, but that doesn't mean that I can't calculate this for every class. Like, I don't need to know how your class works to calculate this for your class. The only thing I can't do is really this. So this is 15? Pretty good. It's not really that good though, right? Because once you realize that like intelligence only takes 2 more points but requires 15 more stat. Yeah, it's interesting. To maxi. No. Actually build this way. Does that change anything? No, it doesn't. No, leaves me in the exact same spot. Does it? Yes, it does, because I need to pick up this and this. Okay. So this is 24 points for 54. Wouldn't it be the same for every class since the boards are just slightly different? All of the boards are the same, except that you swap all of the stats. What's going on, Daedalus? So every board is the exact same in shape. And then you take the stats that they get and you flip them. And then that has implications for which nodes are getting +7 as opposed to +5. And then like what's your minimum stat. So like I think on the Barb, its minimum stat is intelligence as opposed to strength. And then I think its dex and willpower are flopped as well. Okay. Now Bloodbath. Now Bloodbath for rare nodes is pretty bad. And for magic nodes, it's pretty bad. Okay. What up, Yama? Thanks. D. Marquisos. Thank you. So, let's talk about decks. Let's talk about decks, baby. Let's talk about decks and me. Let's talk about all the decks things and the decks things that may be. Let's talk about decks. Let's talk about decks. Minimum points needed to leave board is 21. Pretty bad board. It's actually kind of funny. Like when you think of Bloodbath, you think of a dex board because it's very efficient, but it's a 6-point leaving board, which is always kind of a problem. That's why going this route is so enticing. Because you go here, you go to here, then you have a 5. You have a 5-point leave. The issue being that you don't really need this cluster a lot of the time. Excuse me. What's the best way to farm for it? Killing bosses at the highest rate you can. Like doing like Blood Maiden or doing a bunch of like low-level Gregors or something. Bosses drop temper manuals typically. $21. So this is 21. Minimum number of points to activate is 14. Very good dex board for minimum activation. And then for maxing, there's no other way to build this out, right? No, there's not. Okay, it's 22. It's 22 for 49. For dexterity. A Bloodbath. Int board. So you can go either way. Probably one of my favorite int boards. That's 23. Because it actually gains a 5-point leave while pathing efficiently. Because there's a point here to meet. Another interesting thing that you'll find often is this idea of, yes, you're meeting a requirement within 5 points, but then it's more than 1 point gap between that one and the next priority. And that one, this difference right here, see how this one goes to an intelligence and then goes to an intelligence again? And there's only one inefficient point leading up to this. If I instead didn't put this point here, instead went to this one, I would only ever have 1 point of non-priority stat in between what I'm trying to accomplish. But here it's actually 2 points. So you gain a 5-point exit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's by requiring a half inefficient point of priority here. Which is why you wouldn't use the, even though this is like the efficient way to leave the board, you wouldn't use the same thing just for hitting the minimum requirement. It's interesting. Right, like you wouldn't even go up this way because this is 10 points when this is also 10 points. Whereas this is only a 15 point for minimum activation. I think Hulking Monstrosity is a 14 point, which makes it just very slightly more efficient than this. If I'm not mistaken. If I'm not misremembering. So 15 point. What up, OG? I'm having a hard time finding the correct... Oh, I'm sorry, I answered this. Have you ever had trouble sleeping because you keep overthinking how much hairline can recede during the night? I do. No, not at all. I'm mostly concerned with whether or not I look like I have a tummy. Hairline is not really a thing I need to worry about. I've been blessed to have my hairline as long as I have because my father was like full balding and gray by the time he was 25, so... I'm generally still pulling down mad trim. So I'm all Gucci on that. You also just like losing hair throughout the entirety of the day. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. Only stressing will. Like negatively impacting your body to be efficient with its chemicals you put into it is generally what leads to like worse or more poor health outcomes. So this ends up being you don't gain anything different by going, it's always a 5 point. Okay. Okay, so this is 23 points for 65. Pretty good. Like, just strictly better than Blood Begets Blood, right? Also, it's just like, once you don't like what your hair looks like anymore, you just shave it off. Most male-presenting people tend to look pretty decent with a shaved head. Or you could just get really into hats. Or you can also go get like surgeries if you have the means to do that. You don't have any phobias. There's a lot of options nowadays. Willpower. 4, 5. See, this is an incredibly inefficient willpower board. But okay, so that is 23. What's funny though is it's the same amount of inefficient as an intelligence board if you're trying to path through it for intelligence. Wish you had a cool hat? I think you could positively impact this desire in your life. Minimum points needed to activate is 16. Is this minimum points needed to activate? Hold on. Yes. Yep. Yes. Yep. Is it? Yes, it is. What up, Ava? Quick question. Remember you saying you guys want to break points for course